You're listening to Bigfoot Society, and I'm Jeremiah Byron. In this show, we go beyond the campfire stories to bring you firsthand encounters from people who say they've seen something impossible, from backwoods trails and remote mountain haulers to quiet farms and crowded highways. The stories come from everywhere, and each one leaves us with more questions than answers. These are the voices of the people who've lived it, so settle in, because today you'll hear another account that just might change the way you see the woods forever. So stay with us. All right, Bigfoot Society, we've got the privilege of talking to Rusty today. Rusty is an individual who listens to the show, and also he is a Bigfoot enthusiast ever since he's had his encounter out there in West Virginia, and he's going to tell us all about what happened that day. But welcome to the show, Rusty. How are you doing today, sir?
Thank you. I'm doing very good.
Absolutely. You know, West Virginia is such a wild state. There's a lot of activity that goes on out there regarding this subject. But I would say, feel free to take us back to, that day when you had that sighting.
All right. Well, it was July 7th, 2007. It had just turned right after that. It was 12:06 a.m. And I was traveling Allegheny Mountain. It's eastbound in that way, and I was clipping along pretty good, and I come around the turn, and there's something's walking up the middle of the yellow line, and I really couldn't make it out to start with. But the faster I was making a pretty good clip, and I come up on it real fast, and had to slide a couple times to get stopped, and about 20 feet from that thing, I realized what it was, and it was huge. It was probably at least 8-10 foot tall, at least 6 foot across the shoulders, and the face didn't have no hair on it, but it had great big yellow eyes a shining, and they was wide apart, and this thing had a pushed up nose with nostrils flared, and it was more ape-like than anything that I've ever seen. And like I said, no hair on his face, great big wide tight-lipped mouth, and its head set right down on its shoulders. It had brown fur, couldn't see no ears, I guess, for the fur, but it had fingernails, I did notice that, and the hair hung down underneath its massive arms, about 6 to 8 inches long. And the chest hair looked completely different from the rest of the hair. It was like woolly and, I don't know, greenish maybe from where he'd been eating and not cleaning up. And it had like an ivy vine that went from the right shoulder down to the left hip. I don't know how he had it attached, but I was real close to it and really was trying to pay different attention to the other features. And the chest was massive. You could see the muscles bulging, and it had arms like tree trunks. I mean, it could like pick up 2 deer underneath its arms and walk off with no trouble whatsoever. And the legs was humongous, great big feet. And it stood there for a good little bit, and we checked each other out. Now, how it seen me, I don't know. Maybe by the glow of my dash lights, because they're nocturnal. And directly, this was at White's Run, right before you get there, coming eastbound. And there's a big wide spot there. And I let my lights follow its all as it went over the embankment. And as it went over the embankment, I noticed its feet, how big they was, and hair puffed up around its feet, like hair was longer than its feet. Maybe that's why they don't leave no tracks. But you could see it go down over, and when it went down over, it gave me a sideways snarl, and it had horse-like teeth, but it did have dog teeth, and they was a little on the yellow side, and that's the last I seen of him. But seeing something coming around the turn like that, and you think you're going to run over somebody or something, it gives you a drop gut feeling, and your legs go nimble. I mean, just nimble as can be. We checked each other out, and that thing never took its eyes off me, even as it walked off, like it could see me. And that's about it. Had brown, wrinkly skin on its face, crow's eyes, forehead wrinkles, just like we got. No facial hair. It had a big mug like an ape, and but this thing was massive. It had to weigh 800, 1,000 pounds, and that's probably a little on the light side. I slid right up to it. I slid sideways one way, let off, and slid right up to it about 20 feet away. And it was so close that I had to turn my high beams down on low beams to get a better focus.
So, how did you feel when? So you slam on the brakes. You're finally able to stop your vehicle about, you said 20 feet away. What emotions were you feeling when, okay, your car stopped, you're looking at it, it's right there in front of you for a few seconds?
I thought I was in a movie or something. My stomach hit the floor. My legs went nimble. I had a piece I could have beamed it right between the eyes, but you don't do that kind of stuff when you got a live animal and you don't want to prove that it's a live animal by shooting it. But if it had been a few more seconds, it'd have probably been Bigfoot burger.
That could have ended up pretty bad for the both of you. What were you driving again at that time?
I had a little Red Ranger Ford 4-wheel drive pickup truck.
Okay, yeah.
I was coming along there at a pretty good clip, and if you're ever by there, it's at Route 33, and it's White's Run. It turns off the road. It turned off to the right the way I was going. If you're going west, it turns off to the left. And it never left no tracks down over the hill.
Is this by Seneca Rocks?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
It's very close to Seneca Rocks. The closest town you would be coming that way would be One Go. And there's not much there, just a few houses.
Okay, so you're out in the sticks, and it looks like I'm looking at a topographic. Were you also having to go over mountains on that road as well at the same time?
Oh, yes. There's Rich Mountain, there's Middle Mountain, and then there's Allegheny Mountain. There's like 3 different mountain ranges, and Dolly Sods is on the Petersburg side over through that way, and then you got Spruce Knob Lake on the right side of it, and there's many, many, many miles that people has probably never been. It's so rough a territory, they could get where they wanted to go, but you couldn't.
Absolutely. So you're in a remote area. You're also the exact time you said is 12:06 a.m. So this is middle of the night.
It's dead at night. I mean, it was. If you look up July 7, 2007, it'll tell you the weather. It was crystal clear. Sometimes there's patches of fog through there, but I mean, it was just crystal clear as can be. You could see the red tint in his arms underneath the fur that hung down 8 inches long.
How was it that you're able to remember the exact time that you had this sighting?
I had just happened to look at my clock on the dash.
Gotcha. So it just burned it right into your memory. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, this is burn in. Yeah, it's burn in. It's like a picture. I wish I'd have had a camera. I didn't have a cell phone or nothing. I do carry a piece with me, but like I said, you can't shoot something like that. Not just to prove it lives.
Right.
I'm not that kind of a person.
Now, I want to make sure that I heard a few things right in your description. So you're saying it was a yellow eye shine, or the color of the eyes, or was it a glowing eyes, or?
The eyes were bright yellow like hoot owls. I mean, they shine like road signs, wide apart. This thing had a head size of bushel basket.
Oh, man. So bushel basket.
It was massive. Yeah, I'd say 2.5, 3 foot around. Like I said, the shoulders was at least 6 foot. You could see the muscles bulging up underneath its fur or hair or whatever you want to call it.
Did you get any ideas as if you were looking at a male or a female of the species?
It's a male. It was a male species.
Gotcha. You also mentioned, and I've never heard this detail ever in any of my interviews anyways. So there was you said an ivy vine that ran from its shoulder to its hip.
Its right shoulder, come off around its right shoulder down to its left hip. I don't know how it was attached or what it was for, or if he was the leader. I know it was a big one. It was huge. It took up 3 foot on each side of that yellow line. So it was at least 6 foot wide at the shoulders. And it was just massive. Its arms was longer than its knees. And it was walking right straight up the middle of the road. Wasn't worried about a thing until I started scratching the tires and rolled up on it. And then it just happened to look up. That's when I seen them big old eyes shining.
You have a very interesting sighting here because a lot of people are able to see it walk from left to right, but you're actually able to see it walking up the middle of the road towards you.
And walk off.
That's true. That's true. So you did have the walk off as well, but that walk towards you on the yellow line, were you able to notice anything about the way that it was stepping or moving towards you, like the gait of it?
It had its head down. I didn't notice that until the tires started sliding. That's when it looked up.
Did it seem to walk the same way that a human would walk, or was it?
Oh, yes. It was bipedal. It was all get out.
Got it. And let's say if you were able to see tracks of the way that it was moving, how would you describe those tracks? Like, how would they be placed, either in a line or by each side by side, or
Side by side. They wasn't going like a fox travels, like in a line. These things here was. I mean, I even seen hair puff up then as it was walking up, but it was taking pretty good strides, and it was just walking. I'd say at least 6 foot strides. I got good detail. I know I paid attention as I was sliding toward it because I thought, oh no, here we go.
did you have, or do you happen to notice when you slid towards it and then it went from looking down at the ground to looking towards you, did it have any like reaction emotion to seeing what was coming towards it?
No, it just looked up and its eyes was bright yellow. And then that's when I noticed the nose. It was flared and pushed up like a gorilla, and it had a real wide, tight-lipped mouth, sort of a mug.
Mm-hmm.
No hair. Didn't have hardly no hair around its face. Maybe some eyebrows. But other than that, it didn't have no facial hair around its mouth, lips. Started underneath its chin and went down, and the chest hair was completely different than the rest of it.
That's right, because you were saying it was a different color, but also the hair looked different, right?
It was, yeah, like woven. Sort of like we got straight hair on our legs and curly hair on our chest. That's the way that I could put it.
Absolutely. You'd mentioned that there was a time when you did actually get to see its teeth and you described them as dog teeth. Could you share a little bit about what you mean by dog teeth?
Yeah, it had canines. The rest of the teeth, it gave me a sideways snarl as it went down over the heel. I don't know if it's because I followed it off the road or it was mad or it was a gesture, but it gave me, and it had a big wide mouth, so it had flat teeth, just looked like a horse would have, big yellow square teeth. And then off to the side, it had them dog teeth, uppers and lowers, and they was pretty good size.
Okay, so a row of horse-like teeth, but also some canines as well. And you're saying more than one on either side?
Yeah. Yes, it had canines. Well, at least on the one side. I didn't see the other side. It's got canines like we got.
What would you estimate the length of those canines to be?
Wow, I couldn't even put maybe 2 inches.
Wow.
It had huge teeth.
There's a lot of details in your sighting that I've never run across. It is really, really interesting. Have you ever heard of any other encounters happening in that area where you had yours?
Oh yes, yes, I've heard encounters and before. As a matter of fact, I rode back with my buddy a couple weeks later. We rode out that road, and it comes out over in Whitmer and Job. And he said him and his buddy was camping, and they was 18-foot tracks. And he got out and measured them, and they was 6 foot between heel to toe. And he said he knew right then what it was. And I got a friend that he swears up and down that he could tell you his stories about 3 of them, and one of them wasn't very far from where I live.
Is it pretty common for people in this area to actually get visual sightings like you were able to get that day?
And nobody's ever got a sighting like I have, not to my knowledge. Not if they did, they haven't talked about it.
Would you ever want to see what you saw that night again?
Oh yes, most definitely with a camera.
And why would that
I
be?
mean, I had enough time to make a movie that thing stood there so long.
How many minutes do you think you had of actually looking at it before it walked off on you?
Oh, at least 4 or 5. It just stood there. Like I said, I had my high beams on for a little bit, and then I turned them down, and I had my windows down. It was a nice, warm, clear night. I made a few whoops, crowed like a rooster. I made a few crow calls, and and then I even asked it why it was standing in the middle of the road, but there was no response.
Okay, Rusty, so that's very interesting. So while it's in front of you in the road, you are starting to make different calls at it. So when you're doing the calls, it's not responding in any way.
No response. Just checking me out. Had its eyes glued right on mine.
Man, that's almost a little bit unsettling. I mean, it's not even budging mentally. It's just like, what is this? Well, I mean, if you're in a vehicle, it's probably, if it's not used to vehicles, it's probably pretty confused as to what's going on. But that's kind of me just thinking there. And then also you started talking or yelling to it, correct?
Right, right. I was, because I've heard people in ghillie suits, and if somebody would let you slide up that close in a ghillie suit, they would have had pretty dumpy pants. You could tell by the eyes, the way how far apart the eyes was. Big yellow. I mean, they was big as silver dollars or bigger, and its nose is real wide, pushed up, flared nose, wide mouth, clear across its mug. It was just ape-like. There's no way you could reproduce that.
This is a really specific question, but you had a definite few minutes, so we'll just give it a shot. So picture the face and then picture the nose, and you've got the underneath of the nose, and then if you keep going down, eventually you're going to get to the top of the upper lip. How much space is between those two things, approximately?
None. Its lips was tightly sealed.
Okay, so the lips are tightly sealed, but is there a lot of, so let's imagine like a guy has a mustache, right? And then he shaves his mustache off. So that area of skin where the mustache was, and it's kind of got like a little, it's called the philtrum. How long is that area just above the upper lip?
Not very long.
Okay.
Not very long. I'd say no more than 3/8 of an inch or something. It was tightly lipped and real wide. I don't know if it was because it was mad or I caught it off guard or what it was, but it had a tight lipped mouth.
What shape would you describe the actual head as being?
Well, a lot of people say they're conical, but unless it was on the back side of its head where I couldn't see, I didn't see a whole great big conical head. It was more like big and round and huge.
Big and round and huge, absolutely. This is really interesting.
And it had a hair enough to cover its ears because I looked for them.
I want to get back to the vine that was across, pretty much across its chest, right?
Right.
How wide across is this? Like a vine where it might have been woven with other vines, or was it a thick vine, very thin? Do you remember any details?
It just looked like one ivy vine, like you'd pull a piece of ivy off of a barn, and it was attached from its right shoulder around to its left hip. And it didn't slip off, move, or nothing when it walked off.
And nothing attached to that ivy that you were able to see?
Nothing. No, I don't know how it was attached, but it didn't move off of where it was placed.
Or to say it a different way, it didn't have anything hanging from the ivy that you could see.
No, no, it was tightly fixed.
How would you describe how big its hands were?
About 4 times our size.
Yeah, that's about right.
It had huge hands. It was 5 fingers, or it was 4 fingers and a thumb.
Okay.
I never got to see no toes. Hair was longer on its feet, and I guess that's why it puffed up as it walked off or was walking toward me.
Besides the vine, did it have anything else that was on its person that was covering things, or you're really just looking at a huge something that is covered in hair or fur?
It was just covered in hair and fur, and the vine wasn't supersized of any kind. Just looked like a piece of ivy that you'd pulled off of a barn.
This is awesome.
It was massive.
Yeah.
This thing's chest was massive. I mean, even around its hips and legs was massive. It's just like your stomach dropped to your feet and your legs welded.
Oh, that was the reaction that you had when you saw what you were looking at.
Yes, indeed. After I got stopped and all the adrenaline, because you can't ever tell, somebody just might be walking up the road for attention, but there was no flashlight or nothing until I got up close enough to notice that there was something walking up the middle of the road.
Did it, as you saw it walking away, did it have a tail at all?
No, no tail.
Gotcha.
Big old butt.
Yep. Right. That's what people say, and it needs that in order to be able to pretty much move. It needs those muscles. So that makes total sense to hear that.
It didn't hang on to any tree limb or nothing as it walked down. And now the state has got a wide spot there where they dump loose gravel and stuff, and they still was no tracks. It never hung on to anything. It just walked right down over, and as soon as it started down over, it turned around, and it kept its eyes on me as it turned around and gave me that sideways snarl and walked down over. I had a flashlight, but I wasn't about to go after it. I had a piece with me, but I don't think it would have stopped it.
No, especially the way you're describing it. I mean, I think you're right on there. So after, it walks and it disappears into the woods, walks away. So then what happens after that? How do you, or what happens after that?
I sat there and collected my thoughts for about 5 minutes. So I let my lights follow it off the road in that wide spot. And I'm sure there's a creek that runs in to White's Run down through there off the mountain. And I'm sure that it walked down over and stooped over so I couldn't see it because it was way taller than that bank would have been.
How long was it before you told someone what had happened after this?
It took me about an hour to get to Petersburg, and I called my dad, and we talked for about 4 or 5 hours that night about it because he was supposed to have went with me. There was a couple truck drivers said that they'd went over through there that night and seen one or maybe two, but they wouldn't talk about it.
Oh, wow.
So the people thinking that they're crazy, Of course, there are some crazy people over in that territory.
So to make sure I heard that right, so you're saying there are other people that also had sightings in the same area on the same night?
Yeah, they was the lady on BFRO said that her and her daughter was going fishing and camping that night. Said that after their encounter, they didn't go camping, but they went fishing that night. That should be on BFRO. I put mine on BFRO, and they didn't write it up.
Okay, that's interesting. So there's a BFRO report from the same time period, same day or same, pretty close.
Same evening should be.
Same evening.
Yep, should be.
Okay.
July 7th, 2007.
That's awesome.
I don't know what time they've seen it.
So you talked to your father for multiple hours. How did he react to you when you shared what you experienced and what you saw that night?
Well, he sort of couldn't believe it, but he did believe it. He just wished that he went with me.
Gotcha.
I was just so excited that I just told the story over and over and over again. And, they asked me details like you did. Of course, I've already told them how long. Well, you would never think in a million years you'd see something walking up the middle of the road like that. We've got porcupines here. I've never seen one.
Gotcha. And then to see something as rare as this, even rarer than a porcupine, is pretty incredible.
Way rare.
Right. So individuals, after they have sightings, it seems like they react in very different ways. Some people have to deal with traumatic flashbacks, PTSD. Some people get entirely into the subject and they just go after it, and they're like, I got to read everything, watch everything. Do you feel like it affected you in any of those ways, or maybe something completely different?
Oh, yeah. I don't go out hunting in the night no more. I don't go coon hunting. If I go fishing along the river, I carry a pretty good sized piece with me. And I ain't gonna let something like that catch up with me. I'll at least try to stop it if it went to attack. But I don't think they're violent. I think they're more curious than they are anything.
That's interesting. Have you heard any accounts of people having interactions in West Virginia where it was more aggressive, or you feel it lines up with the way you're looking at it?
They probably just catch a glimpse of it, or, and then it stoops down or it's gone, or because they like to stay hid. I just caught it at the right place at the right time. But why it was walking up the middle of the yellow line, maybe it could see that yellow line since they're so nocturnal. They're a very nocturnal animal.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right on that. Even though there are, daytime sightings, a lot of stuff does happen during the night regarding this. After you had this sighting, did this affect you in any ways that are out of the ordinary, or did you start to have things happen at your home that were just strange? Anything like that?
I've had strange things happen around my house all the time.
Yeah.
Keys are swinging. I've got pictures of keys are swinging, and I was standing there. I even had mom and dad 4 miles away to come up, and they were still swinging. But, I live on playground. Who knows what it was? And I've seen lights. One night I seen lights at a creek. We was all drinking beer back when I was young, way in the 80s. And I mean, the whole field lit up. Like miles around, like he was underneath a operating table light. It lasted for about 7 seconds. You could even see the minnows and the rocks and the water. Put our fire clear out. You couldn't see the fire we had built. Took a few minutes for us to adjust. We looked at each other and we said, "We're the F out of here."
It makes sense. So not only do you have this sighting of what you saw on the road, but you've also had a lifetime of just weird experiences that really seem like they're unexplainable.
Just crazy.
Yeah.
Just crazy. I just sort of try to brush them off. That Bigfoot I can't brush off. It's burned in my mind. I wish I had a picture or somebody would draw a picture. I've seen pictures online that look very similar to it.
That's interesting. Do you remember where you had seen those pictures that look similar to what you saw?
No, just on one of the websites.
Gotcha. This same area, is it also known for other creatures being seen besides Bigfoot, or is Bigfoot the main thing that you have to be aware of around here?
Well, they said that they've seen mountain lions over in that territory, and a lot of people don't believe that there's mountain lions around or a black panther. I've got a cousin that just swears up and down, and he's a gospel going church guy. That he said he was a black panther, and the guy said, "Oh, it was a bear." He said, "Unless it was a bear that had a 6-foot tail, it wasn't." So mountain lions, they're traveling. They get run out of their territory by forest fires and look for new food. So I guess we would do the same. Squirrels do the same thing. If you ever seen squirrels in a line, what they're doing, they're going from one tree to the next, collecting that food and burying it as they go along. My granddad told me that a long time ago.
Rusty, I just want to say thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to share what you experienced that night. I want to make sure that you were able to share everything that you had come to the show prepared to share today.
Well, I'll share the same story that I told you because it's burned in my mind and it will never go away.
Absolutely. Well, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show today, Rusty. And yeah, if there's anything else that you ever run into out there, feel free to reach out. It was a pleasure talking to you today.
Okay, it's a pleasure talking to you too. I'm glad you called. I hope it helps other people, let alone me, to get it off my chest. But At least a lot of people say, no, they look like human. They look like they are very, very ape-like. At least the one I seen was.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Bigfoot Society podcast. Every encounter we share reminds us that the world is bigger and stranger than we think, and that the truth is often hiding just beyond the tree line. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe to the channel on YouTube, hit the bell so you don't miss the next episode, and share this with a friend who's into mysteries, monsters, or the unexplained. And if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcast, please follow the show there and leave us a 5-star positive review, because all that helps more people discover the show. And remember, if you or someone you know has had a Bigfoot sighting, please, I'd love to hear from you. So email me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com and let's start the conversation. If you haven't gotten a chance yet, check out our membership community over at www.bigfootsocietypodcast.com. And that's where you can hear tomorrow's episode today, early and ad-free, and members-only episodes every week. Also, it's a place to connect with other people that are into the Bigfoot subject as much as you are. Thanks again for following along with the Bigfoot Society. Until next time, keep your eyes open, trust your gut, and never stop asking what else might be out there. And see you in the woods.